necessary for holding this rush off, as warp in, of course, is on a cooldown, and you can see warping in more units right now. But at the same time, I need this warp in to buy the time for these units that are trying, or for these cannons that are trying to warp in, so they can help me with defending. And it looks like I'm able to successfully take out the majority of your army, and this cannon finally getting in here and doing some damage itself. Although you do have more zealots warping in up on the top here. And it looks like you've gone for an expansion down at the high yield here. So trying to get a little bit of an economic advantage, since we are both expanding at about the same time, but of course you have the high yield versus my regular expansion.
Exactly. That's something that I like to do, is expand, obviously, when I'm attacking. Just kind of, it's less obvious to happen, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely good to try to do some expansion or improving your tech while you have a little bit of an advantage, or have your opponent pushed into their base like this, because obviously you can tell right now based on my vision that I cannot see his expansion because I haven't been able to move out since he's been attacking this. So I am unaware that he has the high yield, but I'm trying to get up my own expansion right here as it is. And it looks like I'm going to push up here and try to finish this army off. At this point, I think that I've got enough to hold you off and try to get this proxy pylon out of here finally, and hopefully relieve a little bit of this pressure on my base here, my front doorstep, getting constantly hit by these units that you're bringing in.
Right.
Now,
I think those units that I'm continuing to warp in at that proxy is a mistake, because you've obviously got me overrun in that area.
Right, and you do have another void right here. What are your plans with this here as it's moving out? Are you going to try, I mean, at this point you obviously know that I have a cannon back there, and you know that I have stalkers.
Right.
What exactly is your plan with this void ray at this point?
I think my plan was to try to go into the back there while your units were out of your base, take out that cannon, and maybe pick off your nexus. But it looks like maybe I got distracted. I don't know what I'm doing. That's another move brought to you by 13.
And taking down a pylon there, that pylon's getting what it deserves. But going back to your base here, it looks like your tech is pretty much the same. You still got the Stargate and all of your warp gates here. Nothing new yet. Have you decided on any kind of a tech switch that you're going to be doing here shortly? Or are you pretty much just going to keep continuing to stick with this ground army?
I think at this point I'm going to stick with that ground army. I'm hoping that I have you out-resourced at this point, and if we take a look at the income, I do have you out-incomed. So I think I'm just going to try to mac you up with a ground army.
And you can see that this higher income for 13 right now is a result of this high yield expansion, because these probes do return more minerals from these yellow minerals than the blue mineral patches do. So of course 13 getting a little bit of an advantage there on the expansion for the high yield. Although looking at our resources, I seem to have more money, so apparently I am not macroing as well as I should be at this point. If we take a look at the production overlay right now, we can see that you are getting a fleet beacon and a citadel. So at this point you are advancing your tech a little bit more. What is your plan for this?
I'm trying to get that fleet beacon, obviously, to get a mothership. That's the main reason I normally build a fleet beacon. I don't like to go carriers very often. And I'm going to try to recall on the back of your base with that mothership.
Motherships can be very effective if used properly, especially with that mass recall. Mass recall was, of course, an ability of the Arbiter in StarCraft 1, but since the Arbiter no longer exists, it has been moved to the Mothership. But the Mothership, also a very powerful air unit, does a lot of damage to ground units. It also has the Vortex ability, which sucks units into it so units cannot escape. It doesn't actually do any damage, but it does keep them from attacking or doing anything while that Vortex is active. So it's a good way to split up an army, and also a good way to divide an army and just basically take out little chunks of your opponent, rather than trying to take on everything all at once.
Exactly, that Vortex ability is almost like a glorified stasis field.
Exactly. Now we do have 2 more gateways going down for me. I realize that I've only got 4, and 13 is probably macroing up more than I am, so decide that I need a few more warp gates coming in there. And you do have this robotics facility finishing up here at this point. Are you going to be going for Colossus, or are you going for Immortals, or what's going on with this?
I think I'm actually going to try to build a transport so that I can take that island base.
Okay, so getting a phase prism so we can move some units over there. And it looks like I'm going to start moving out on the map. I'm not sure if I'm aware. Yes, I am aware that you have expanded down here at this point. So I am moving down to try to take this expansion out, which of course, right now, all you have down there is basically cannons to defend. So there's going to be a little bit of resistance, but hopefully with the size of the army that I have, this will be strong enough to take this expansion down. And at this point, you don't have much of a ground army other than these zealots, which actually that's 18 zealots, so that's a decent amount of zealots. And it looks like you have the charge ability researching right now. which let's go ahead and take a look at the Citadel and see how close that is. Yeah, that is just about finished. So that's going to be coming online here shortly. It looks like you were able to get your probes away from there. And I am able to take down this Nexus, so you do lose that extra economy. If we look at the income tab right now, you can see that I have jumped way ahead as far as economy goes. And I am actually throwing down a second expansion here right now, but your Zealots are obviously going to spot that very shortly.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, one reason I went mass Zealots there is because I was building a mothership, and a fleet beacon, which requires a large amount of gas, and I just didn't really have the gas to build anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm trying frantically to warp in some more units because I see how many Zealots you have, and of course I've got mostly ranged units. The idea with those sentries was to get some force fields up. Unfortunately, I warped them in too late, so I was not able to get any force fields up to block that Zealot army. And apparently, new move of the game again here. My remaining army from taking down your expansion was sitting back at the second expansion I was trying to take. So these Zealots pretty much have free reign over my expansion right now, and I have to retreat these probes back into my main. And again, pulling my main army back here so that I can try to defend this. But of course, your mothership has now finished and is on the way over to my base. And back in your base here, I do not see a whole lot of units right now. So you do have the mothership, but not a whole lot to go with it. And it looks like you are going to back off with that mothership because you are aware of how many anti-air units I have at the time. And the Zealots focus firing down the Nexus, so I lose that expansion. And of course, my economy immediately drops way below yours because that secondary expansion was my primary income. You at this point have more minerals in your main than I do. I only have one patch left. So at this point, your economy is much stronger than mine is, and of course you are getting a second base up right now on the island expansion.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing that I like to do, obviously, when somebody takes out my expansion, is just counter and take out their expansion, try to have at least the resemblance of an even trade there.
And it looks like you have warped in some more Zealots here, so going to continue to defend. And of course, these Zealots are very strong with that chargeability against my ranged units because I do not have enough Zealots. Well, actually, I have more Zealots than I thought I did at this point, so trying to get some Zealots of my own in the mix. Of course, I do not have the chargeability yet here, as you can see, so his Zealots are going to be more potent because of that chargeability. They'll be able to get surrounds on my units much easier. And I have started putting down my Nexus again because I need to get it minerals fast, or I'm going to be out of this game very quickly. And of course, going up in there, I realized how many more units than me you had as far as Zealots goes, so I decided that that is a bad idea.
Yeah, exactly. I think I probably would have taken you out there with all those Zealots.
Mm-hmm. And of course, all my probes here moving over to the new expansion because it is just about to finish up, and I need to get that mining as soon as possible. And it looks like your mothership is going to move over here. Are you planning on recalling the units at this point, or?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I finally have enough units to do some damage on your main, so I'm going to move in for the recall.
And unfortunately, I had Phoenix in the mix, but I did not have them over here to defend against your mothership, which, actually looking at that now, I should have even taken them over there after the fact because you only have Zealots at this point, and I would have been able to take that down pretty easily, I think.
Right, exactly. When I saw those Phoenix in there, I was a little concerned because I know I had only Zealots, and I would have probably lost that mothership.